The global economy is crashing at a very fast rate. The US dollar has fallen. Years of power peace have all disappeared, and the news of massive inflation makes it all worse. At this point, you may think that things cannot get any worse than this, but you thought wrong. In today's video, we take a look at the impending doom of 2023, the fall of the US dollars. Will things get worse? The International Monetary Fund has foreseen that global growth will slow down to 2.7% next year, which is 0.2 points lower than what it predicted in July this year. It also thinks that in 2023, the entire situation of the economy by then will feel like a recession for lots of people across the world. A World Economic Outlook presented by the IMF reveals that apart from the global financial crisis and the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the current economic growth is the weakest ever since 2021. The GDP for 2021 was predicted to be at 6%, but would you imagine that in 2022 that number nosedived and the GDP for this year is currently at 3.2%. That is merely half of what it was last year. And if you ask us, this is just the beginning of the global financial crisis. The three world's largest economies, the United States, the European Union, and China, will only continue to slow down, as it has been reported that more than 1/3 of the world economy will have negative growth for 2 quarters in a row. 2 whole quarters. That's lots of economic problems for more than half of the year. And to make things worse, the chief economist of the IMF, Pierre Garanchis, said that based on their report, next year is going to be hard for us all. He also added that the economy is going to slow down and affect us deeply. Currently, 3 key situations are slowing down the growth of the economy: the Russia-Ukraine war, China's dying economy, and the rise in living costs. Altogether, the existence of these 3 things makes up for a flammable time in terms of politics, the economy, and the environment. A report from the IMF states that the Russia-Ukraine war, in particular, continues to strongly destabilize the global economy. As a result, there is a severe energy crisis in Europe and damage in Ukraine. Since 2021, the price of natural gas has gone up by more than 4 times, and this is because Russia now only supplies 20% of what it did in 2021. That is not the only thing affected by this war, as the cost of food has also skyrocketed, no thanks to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Looking at this, only very few people will be surprised if the situation gets worse in 2023. The IMF further lets us know that global inflation will reach its highest peak in late 22, going from 4.7% in 2021 to 8.8%. And sadly, it will remain at that high rate longer than it was previously thought. Inflation around the globe will drop to 6.5% in 2023 and 4.1% in 2024. In an attempt to fight inflation, monetary policy is getting tighter and the US dollar is strongly appreciating against other currencies. On the other hand, China's zero-COVID policy and its resulting lockdowns continue to hinder their economy. As Bloomberg Economics said, all of these issues could clear out an entire $5 trillion of global worth, and as opposed to the more optimistic views at the beginning of the year, this suggests that something major will happen in 2023. Amidst all of the evidence that points out the fact that the world is only drawing nearer to its doom and economic tragedy, there seem to be a few bright spots that make things a little better, and maybe 2023 will not be a bad year after all. For instance, the labor market has shown to be persistent, thus the Fed may pull off the gentle landing. Warm weather may also prevent a recession in Europe, and China may decide to lift its lockout earlier than we anticipate. 2 weeks ago, some of these possible scenarios became clear when a rally was started in response to lower the anticipated US inflation and indications of a Chinese shift away from COVID-0. But even at that, it is extremely difficult for people to feel upbeat about the economy after years of war, plague, and scarcity. What we can only envision now are the economic threats the world is going to face in 2023. Bloomberg Economics has already predicted a United States recession to occur in the second half of 2023, as high borrowing costs hit rate-sensitive businesses like real estate and autos, for example. The effect of this is that more than 2 million Americans will most likely lose their jobs. But just maybe if inflation somehow magically disappears, then things can get better. Due to the pandemic, the labor market has crashed and the rate of unemployment has spiked, leaving no means for inflation to stabilize at this point. So, if this happens in the United States, which most analysts think it would, the FED may be compelled to increase rates as high as 6% globally until a deeper and longer recession. As a result of this, since so many other countries share the same issue and their central banks are taking the same route to ease this inflation, we are seeing the risks occur in these countries too. Those that make attempts to deviate from taking such a route are not even finding it easy to do so. Japan, for example, has stuck to its zero interest rates, but this is at a high cost in money markets as the yen is now losing more than 15% of its dollar value. Haruko, the originator of Japan's low interest rate strategy, will leave office in April, and his successor will be faced with the difficult decision of whether to continue using cheap money and risk the yen collapsing, or follow in the footsteps of the FED and destabilize one of the world's largest debt piles. Real estate takes up 1/5 of China's economy, and as the market struggles, the impacts are still being felt globally. According to reports, the economic scars that were only slightly healed after the pandemic will reoccur as a result of the shocks of 2022. This simply means that emerging markets and economies will be severely impacted by the shocks. In a separate report that describes the economic situation, the IMF stated that the climate is fragile and that storm clouds are brewing. It goes on to explain that additional shocks could result in market instability, chaotic sell-offs, or hardship. Axel Trottensberg, the managing director of operations for the World Bank Group, also made similar remarks at the 2022 annual meeting of the IMF and the World Bank Group. The US Bureau of Labor Statistics said that the inflation in October of this year was lesser than anticipated, yet factors like housing, energy, and food also play a role in why consumer prices have remained high up even until this moment. The Consumer Price Index, an important indicator of inflation, shows that inflation increased by 7.7% in October compared to how it did in the same month last year. The price of a collection of products and services that cost $100 a year ago has decreased to 107.70 cents, and this has been the smallest 12-month increase ever known since January 2022. Winter 2022 may already seem hard now, but winter 2023 is likely to get worse as the energy crisis is also putting a lot of stress on the world's economies, especially in Europe. Reports even show that this is not going to be a shock that can be gotten over very quickly, as it may be here to stay. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, on the other hand, has caused a permanent realignment of the energy supply. Increased prices in food and housing, a struggling labor market, and now a reduced energy supply. The global economy is on a roll, we must say. The global economy in the coming year may be a lot worse than it is right now, or the situation may take good shape. But given all the spiraling events occurring now, you should take precautionary measures by not getting any more debt until we know for sure that the economy will favor us once again. And we have come to the end of today's video. Hope you enjoyed watching this as much as we enjoyed making it. What do you think will become of the global economy by 2023? Share your thoughts in the comments section. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and tap the bell icon so you can get notifications about any future videos.